Good afternoon, Karen.
Good afternoon, John. So great to be back with you in person, live and in the flesh.
Right here on Right
Fucking
Now. Throwing out the right fucking now sign.
whatever it is.
Yeah, we'll come up with like a hand sign for
You
it.
look like you're doing puppet, what do you call it? Like the shadow puppets.
Oh yeah, I love shadow puppets.
Me too.
I've been doing some hand stuff. Anyway, I see you brought your ball.
You've been doing some hand stuff, and I'll do some hand stuff on my ball.
Has this ball been on a previous episode of ours?
It's been on a couple. We love this
Yeah.
magic ball.
It is.
Yes.
Anywho, I would love our jumping off point today to be emotions and what Abraham calls the emotional guidance scale.
Yes.
I got a little inspiration right before we started jotting out some notes about the emotional guidance scale. But the general premise or jumping off point is that emotions are actually a gift. They're not something you want to push away or not acknowledge, but instead recognize they're really the only instinct we have and something you definitely want to pay attention to. And basically, Abraham was explaining it. I've heard her explain it several different ways, but this explanation I was listening to recently hit really hard. And she was basically saying, your inner being or higher self knows how good your life can be. It sees the ideal outcome in absolutely everything. So anytime you're in a circumstance and you're focusing on something other than what your inner being knows is the ideal outcome, you're feeling negative emotion. And that negative emotion is the feedback to let you know, A, you're focused in the wrong direction. Since it's only an inclusive universe, not an exclusive universe, whatever you're looking at is calling more of it. If you're shouting no at something, you're actually shouting yes at it. So all you have is that placement of awareness, and the emotions are indicating if your placement is in your best interest or not in your best interest. And recognizing when I feel the negative emotions, sweet, I'm focusing in a non-preferred direction, calling more non-preferred stuff towards me, and then recognizing, she calls it like flicking it off or brushing it off, whatever I'm focusing on, and then realizing, am I in a high enough emotional state where I can pivot and then be like, oh, I'm feeling a lack of money right now. Can I pivot to embracing an abundance of money? Or if I can't get that far, just divesting focus almost in like a meditative neutral state to like let the momentum dissipate on that focus, but really recognizing the power of the emotions as guidance.
Yeah, I dig that. I think one thing that's really powerful, I think, to do in situations like that, number one is to notice when you're feeling something that you don't prefer, right? And for me, it's an indicator that I'm not in truth, because the truth of who I am is expansive.
Yes.
Now, I call everything to me. I call these lower vibration emotions to me because I love contrast. Otherwise, it's like looking at the sun and not noticing that I'm standing in a pile of shit. Like something smells bad, but everything's so bright and sunny. So I, as a human being, love contrast. It gives me, like, imagine if you were looking at a painting and it had only one color. It'd be really fucking boring, right?
Fucking boring.
So we call these contrasting situations and emotions to us for reasons. We get to live all of it. And are you familiar with The Work by Byron Katie?
I've heard of her, but tell me, I'm not intimately.
So it's an inquiry process. And usually if I'm feeling a negative emotion or something that I don't prefer, then I'm believing something. So her work, The Work by Byron Katie, is like 4 questions. And the first one is this true? So you get to like, okay, what must I be believing in order to be feeling this, right?
Yes.
Somebody we know has said that a few times.
Yes.
It was you.
There's me.
And Bashar.
And I got it from Bashar. My bro, he hooks me up.
I would pound my chest, but I don't know which side the microphone's on.
Yeah, I think I just pounded my microphone. Sorry if a pound came through for everyone.
It's the first time you've ever apologized for a pound.
Damn it.
I'm always on. Yes. Yeah, I got it. So is this true? And then you answer it, like, is it really true? How, can I know for sure it's true? Like, is there a situation, like, is it only true for you, or is it universally true? Is it true for everyone? And I don't know all the questions because there's 4 of them and I can't count that high. But one of them is like, who would I be without this thought? Who would I be without it? And then there's a reversal. So where you actually play with the reverse, like the opposite of what you're believing, and try it out. And then it kind of like dissolves the mind fuckery that you're in, because it's some kind of ego game, and the ego will not withstand questioning. Anytime you question it or bring it to the light, as logical and reasonable as it sounds inside our heads, once you shine a light on it, you're like, this is so stupid. And then you can pivot after that. But I love this process of inquiry. So look it up. You can find it everywhere. The Work by Byron Katie.
It sounds very similar to Abraham's focus wheel, where she describes you see something you like or want or desire, but then you have a belief system blocking you from that. And then she explains this process of a focus wheel almost like she uses the playground spinny thing as an analogy. I don't know if you remember that when I was a kid. Well, the merry-go-round, or when you were a kid, it was like a wheel that spun with a couple handles on it, and maybe like 4 kids could get on there.
Oh, it's not a merry-go-round. What is it called?
I don't know what the name for it is.
I thought.
That's a great analogy. I mean, it seems like the best, most self-explanatory description of it.
I don't remember it. That's what I think we used to call it that.
We should see what Amazon describes it as.
They don't sell them anymore because somebody got hurt. Like teeter-totters,
Yes.
seesaws, they don't sell them
Yes.
usually.
Well, that was exactly...
One person got hurt.
That was exactly her point with the merry-go-round, let's call it that, where if a bunch of people have it spinning really fast and you were a kid and you tried to like hop on when it was spinning fast, you just get flung off. And that's how she explains focus of momentum. So if you have a negative focus of momentum and it's really spinning, and you try and be like, no problem, I'm gonna dead stop this and get it spinning the opposite direction, it's just gonna like fling you off into the bushes. So meditation is the process of maybe dissipating, or the process you were describing of the focus wheel is starting very slow and very broad, and then getting more specific and more focused on what you prefer in time. So say, for an example, you're interested in finding a partner, you don't have one. You see, I don't have a partner now. You see where you want to go is, I have the best partner ever who's perfectly aligned with me. You're not gonna like flip the switch into believing immediately. But on her focus wheel, you'd start maybe with, there's 7 billion people in the world. And you'd be like, that's true. Then you'd be like, surely there's gotta be at least 1 out of 7 billion people who's gonna match with me. And you're like, that's true. And then maybe you go to, I've attracted people before who've been pretty close alignments to me. And you keep kind of working like a little deeper and deeper towards this ultimate point, which would allow you to like increase momentum in that preferred direction. And a lot of these processes seem like very similar, and it exhilarates me to see all the different approaches to the same general idea of like dissipating non-preferred focus or dissipating lacking, limiting beliefs, and then refocusing in on potential and possibility and knowing you're unlimited to have anything you want.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like having access to so many and trying them, like saying, you know, which one works for me? And they might not all work in every given moment. So it's kind of giving yourself permission to trust your intuition. Like, okay, and I do that with meditation too. Like, okay, what's best for me today? And it's not always the same, right? And I can't remember what I was going to say next. Go.
I love that. I love when that happens. That's always, I define that now as a reflection to myself that I've shifted vibrations. Yeah. 9 times out of 10 when I can't remember, all of a sudden I realize, wow, I'm feeling really good right now. Yeah. And Abraham highlights that. And on the last cruise I was on, that happened to a couple people, and she highlights it. Well, you shifted vibration in our first discussion, and now that's no longer relevant to the vibration you're at. And I love hammering home this point, which I get from Bashar and basically everyone. Life is just a present tense now state of being. The state of being you're choosing is feeding you thoughts at that state of being, is feeding you experiences and circumstances in your outer reality that's out that state of being. So all that's ever relevant is your chosen state of being, and that's the reflection you're getting back. So
yes.
Forgetting thoughts is absolutely phenomenal. And
I love it. That's a great reframe.
Yeah, it was inspiring me too. Reverend Ike is this other guy I started listening to. I think he was popular in like the 60s or 70s.
Ike Turner?
That's a whole other road. I don't know if we want to go down. But he has this super powerful quote that I am super excited to share. And that is, facts and circumstances are not in charge. I'm in charge. And with that example of redefining the possibility of something you prefer to have, You realize like, I see no proof of it right now. Everyone's telling me that's impossible, but I recognize the ultimate truth is facts and circumstances are not in charge. They're not dictating my reality and no relevancy for me. I'm in charge. And then you can use some of these processes, imagination, segment intending, basically shifting your focus to what you do prefer and knowing that's absolutely possible for me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking about facts and circumstances in the quantum as being that 99.99999% energy or information. And so any fact, any circumstance is only such a teeny tiny minuscule part matter or reality.
Yes.
So it's mostly an illusion,
Yes.
even though we consider them to be facts.
Yes. Yeah, because all truths are true, as Bashar says. All facts are real, even conflicting ones, because it just depends on the vibrational level creating that. I had the most profound realization coming out of a meditation yesterday, and the phrase I got from myself was, there's no separation between the inner world and the outer world. And that's what all these teachers were after suggest. The outer world is you, there's no separation. But then the next line that I received from myself was, just like in imagination, you can do bicep curls and get a bigger bicep. We know this from tons of studies. Joe talks about a lot of them. It was saying, if you prefer green lights, just like if you focus on green lights and continually passing through and the feeling of going straight through every intersection, you'll get green lights. It's that same idea, like whatever I practice inside my body, knowing it's going to change my body, since there's no separation, I can practice the same thing in the external world and then have the external world reflected to me, because a higher truth or higher perspective is the outer world is me. There's no separation in the quantum field from that.
Yeah, I love that. And that goes for, I mean, most people have heard of projection, and they'll say, oh man, like I'm attracting all these angry people. That must be me. Well, yes. What else are you attracting that you're not noticing? So when you see somebody who's really smart or well-spoken or intelligent or creative, that's also you. So projection goes both ways. It's the positive things that we are like, oh no, not me. Who am I to be great? Who am I to be wealthy? Who am I to be like hot? Like whatever it is your limitation is.
Heck yeah. It's all in that focus, right? Are you observing the things you prefer more or don't prefer more? They really are more or less equally present. Abraham gives an interesting excuse for this, for saying, we'll cut you a little slack because when you get a solid momentum going, just like a car, you can only perceive the frequency that you are. So if you're on a certain frequency and you really have a lot of speed and momentum going on it, you literally can't see some of the things that are right in front of your face. And there's that practice of meditation or defocusing for a period of time every day to broaden the perspective and open to possibilities with the intention of perceiving more, and then slowly shifting your way up to other frequencies and perceiving.
Love it.
Yes.
And you can find evidence of this if you ever talk to anybody who's been through the same event, even siblings, like about your childhood. The perceptions are always so different, or eyewitnesses to anything. And they all have like, oh, did you notice our waiter was this? I'm like, no, I thought he was great. Like, what do you mean? But it's like we're looking for evidence all the time to prove that we're right about whatever we want to be right about.
Yeah.
So what do you want to be right about?
Yeah. Abraham has this great phrase, you can't just be a sloppy thinker and get what you want. You can't just focus on whatever the hell's going on in your reality and expect to be a conscious creator. You have to selectively sift and sort and decide in a couple seconds, I see this occurring. Is this something I'm excited to amplify in my reality? If so, focus on it. If not, there's a million other things around you can shift your focus to. And she would frequently say she would rather you go to boredom than something in the lower half of the emotional scale. And I think I mentioned this on an episode a long time ago, like a car accident happens somewhere, like everyone's fine. You could stand there and stare at it when that's not going to do anything except call more of it to you. The situation's already under control, whatever, people are fine. But by focusing on it, I'm focusing in on that vibration and amplifying it. Or I could simply be like, oh, there's a puppy over there. I'm going to go pet that puppy right now. That discernment is everything. Do I want to amplify what I'm looking at? In a conversation yesterday, I started like a sentence and I had this whole paragraph idea formulated in my mind. I spoke the first sentence. I felt the emotional feedback. Hey, this is discordant with you. Do you really want to speak that? And I was like, you know what? I decided I don't want to speak this anymore. Let's go to like a new topic. And I was so proud and in love with myself for feeling that discernment and deciding not to pursue that focus anymore. Because as Abraham says, you got to decide if you want to be right or you want to be happy. Do you want to be an observer and a commenter on reality, or do you want to be a conscious creator and intender of that reality?
I love that.
Yeah.
You want to be an observer or do you want to be a creator? Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yes.
I love it. All right, hold on.
Yes.
So you're saying so many things, and
I know.
I'm reminded, like I left Walmart one day with my daughter, and there were these people arguing, and they were about to fight. And you're talking about like what you focus on, and I'm like, okay, I have a choice here. I can react, and there are many, many things I could do. So what I chose to do was open my heart and like surround them with love and create this love bubble around them. And they totally felt it. It was like watching it in slow motion was beautiful. It's like all of a sudden they just like de-escalated. And we are that powerful, especially when you practice opening your heart and sharing love. And I think this is really like putting our money where our mouth is, especially in the spiritual community. I think it's in the Bible too. It's like you can easily love those that love you, but how easily can you love those who hate you? That's the work. And, you know, of course, in Miracles, we've talked about this before, but everything is either an extension of love or a cry for healing. So those two guys were crying for healing. Like they were yelling, I don't feel lovable. I don't feel seen. I don't feel validated. I don't feel loved. Love me, love me, love me. And I'm like, okay, I got you. I can love you. I can love that. There's nothing about you that's unlovable. And they felt it. And it just, they walked away.
That's so cool. I love that. And I've been playing that game a lot recently too, being like, can I influence this circumstance without physically taking any action, but merely by placing my intention on a preferred outcome and watching the results and being like, damn. And what's coming to mind is this Eastern proverb that I love so much. He who doesn't know speaks. He who knows does not speak. And that's that same idea when you know reality is my own creation and I can direct it over time, intention by intention, in the way I prefer, and have those epic moments where in real time you perceive that you've changed the outcome of an event, and you likely did. And I know it's true and I've seen it happen, but without a single word, without a single action, you silently and knowingly place your awareness like that. And that's cool, because we've seen 9 times out of 10 what happens when you take physical action for like a circumstance you're like unsure, but it seems to be escalating in a way, and then you step in. And we've played that game with humanity a lot and we see how it goes, but what game we've never really played is that quiet, focused intention, knowing you're the creator of it.
I love that. And that's, I think we've talked about this too before, but practicing this exercise 5 minutes is Christ.
Yes.
So what do? You have all power under the sun, which it's been proven you do have it. What do you do with it? And then just like practicing, okay, what do you do? Like, okay, I de-escalate things. Like, what about in politics? Can we de-escalate things? Can we love the unlovable? I don't know. It's fun to practice with. And how do you feel after you do that?
Magnificent. I mean,
Like really fucking good.
like Christ consciousness, being like, wow, I can literally impact reality.
And in truth, because that's a truth of who we all are. We all have that power. And we don't think we do. We're listening to the wrong voice.
Yeah. Or just as Dr. Joe would say, you're so distracted and so invested in the illusion that you've forgotten how you consciously create. Trying to change matter to matter. I physically get involved in this physical altercation, matter to matter. It's valid. We've done it for eons or whatever. But the ultimate excitement is perhaps, at least my game, in recognizing I'm a conscious creator, and my conscious focus is what creates 1,000,000 times more powerfully than that matter to matter focus.
100%. And it's fast because energy knows no bounds. And, you know, if you look at heart math, you've heard of heart math?
Yes, love
of course,
heart
you're
math.
in the Dr. Joe community. But I remember reading the book like I don't know, a couple decades, a decade at least before getting into Dr. Joe work. And reading one of the stories, this is, every time I tell it, I get goosebumps. But they had a convicted sex offender go to a playground, and they told the parents, just sit and do not interfere. He's not going to get near your kids. So it was where the kids couldn't see him. And without seeing him, every one of those kids ran over to their parents. That's the goosebumps. Because the energy field of the heart is so big. They all felt it. They were not safe. And they all ran over to their parents. Unfortunately, in doing such a good job teaching our kids to behave and to conform, we teach that out of them. So we teach them, no, you say you're sorry, but I'm not sorry. You apologize. You give Uncle Sam a kiss, but he's creepy. You know, we teach them not to listen to their guidance, to their guts, but they all have it, and we all have it within us. It's a matter of cultivating it and learning to trust it again. And you can do this by, when things go poorly for you, like you get into a car accident, go back. Like, was there any sign that you failed to listen to? Because you were in a hurry, because you're like, logic's like, no, you got this, you're being stupid. Like, you got to do this, you got to be on time. When you're like, I could have listened to that. And every single person I ask to do this, they're like, yep, there were signs. Yep. And I ignored them.
Yeah. Abraham calls that connecting the dots. When something occurs, look back at where your focus has been recently, connect the dots and be like, oh, and leverage it for the positive benefit and being like, damn, I am a conscious creator. Thank you for showing me how powerful of a creator I am. I can do better starting right now in placing the focus in the direction I prefer.
Yeah. And then also take a look at all your have-tos, like all the things you have to do. I have to go grocery shopping today. I have to do the laundry. I have to pay this bill. I have to be on time to this meeting. All these have-tos, they really mess with your free will and your ability to listen to your intuition. So do you really have to? No. You don't really have to do anything. There, of course, are consequences if you don't do certain things, like feed your children.
Yes.
Feed yourself.
There are a few that have significant consequences. Although I've been realizing this a lot, it's true. The vast majority of things you really don't have to do, and the consequences are pretty minimal, especially in terms of feeding myself. I've realized generally like one meal a day is more than adequate for me. My body, I've been eating 1 or 2 meals a day for the most part. Some days I'll eat 10 meals, but almost every day it's 1 or 2 meals. My body weight hasn't changed at all in 2 years, and I've been eating 1 or 2 meals a day for 2 years now. Like being like, oh, interesting. I was spending all that time focused grocery shopping, running around to like restaurants, money buying food, this and that, and it just wasn't even necessary. Yeah. And I started applying it in the same way. Oh, I need to do my laundry. And then I'm like, well, what happened if I did it tomorrow? Well, actually, like nothing. I'm not going on a trip. No one's coming over. There's stuff in my closet. I can let that sit for a couple days until I'm excited and ready to do it. And it starts just freeing up so much time and space for focus. Yes.
Yeah. And then following your highest excitement. Like, you know, it might be to do laundry. Maybe that's your highest excitement. Yes. I gave somebody that advice today. Like, she was talking about how she trusts God, in quotes, and she's trying, she said trying like 1,000 times. And that's a really disempowering word to the body. The subconscious mind doesn't know. If you try, how does it know if you succeeded or not? Like, what? It doesn't know what to do with it.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of your available energy just speaking that word. And when that concept gets to your subconscious mind, which is instantly, you're reducing your energy. But just being conscious of God's will for you is your will. It's your highest excitement, and following that. And what happens to your frequency when you follow that highest excitement? And then we were talking about, you know, something she had been focusing on that was really not her side of the street, we'll say. And I'm like, think about your energy, feel your body. What happens when you focus your attention there? She's like, oh. And she's like, I'm zapped. I'm like, yeah. So it's just notice that.
Yeah. Abraham always says you can't solve a problem by looking at it, by focusing at the problem with the intention of solving it. You're paradoxically amplifying it. Same as Einstein's quote, you can't solve a problem from the same level of mind that created it. You have to hop to a level of mind, or a box, as Dr. Joe would say, or a consciousness, as Abraham would say, that the problem is already solved or simply doesn't exist, and that will allow reality to then reflect that the problem doesn't exist. But that emotional feedback, it feels fucking awful when I look at this. The thinking mind's like, well, let's try and solve it, which is paradoxically amplifying it, versus recognizing, oh, the emotion's indicating stop fucking looking at this. Look in the opposite direction if I can and get the feeling of it, or just look at nothing else, or distract myself, like the new slice of cheese kid thing. Have you seen that? I might have talked about this on the last video.
No.
It was viral for a while, but when kids were having temper tantrums, like little kids, parents were taking like a Kraft single, a little slice of like yellow cheese, and like hucking it at their kid's face, and it would slap to the kid's face and stick on there, and the shock would distract them, deeply from what they were crying about or whatever. They'd like peel it off, and then 99% of the time they'd peel it off and be like, like cheese, and they'd start smiling and eating cheese, and they just went from a temper tantrum to like contently eating cheese in 2 seconds. And you see the power of distraction.
I can
like
see that working on you.
Oh, totally.
100%.
Totally.
And on me, let's be honest.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I was going to say, like for me, it's not been easy. Once the momentum's going in a direction, especially like a negative one, I'm like, ugh. It's not easy for me to just like, oh, I'm going to sit and meditate, because I am at that same level of mind that created the problem. For me, I get to move my body in some way. And it could be like walking around the block. It could be skipping. We love the skipping. It could even be calling somebody, calling someone who speaks your language, who isn't going to defend you and say, oh, you're right, your life is a piece of crap. You don't want that. You want somebody who's going to listen and then say, hey, do you want another perspective? Or like, are you done? But somebody who's not going to co-sign your bullshit. Someone who holds space, of course, but who's not going to let you stay there for very long. In what I call the shitty diaper.
The shitty diaper. I was just listening to a Bashar yesterday where he was like total mic drop. He's like every action, every object, every process, everything is what he calls a permission slip to choosing to change your state of being in your consciousness. And the questioner was like, even meditation? And he's like, say it with me. Every action, every object, every ritual, everything is a permission slip. But then he follows it up with, if it's attracting you and feeling like it's gonna work, it's because it's resonant with your belief system. So leverage it, but like recognize, hey, meditation's a valid permission slip, but so is calling a friend who I know who always points in the direction I prefer. So is going for a run, and then looking around and being like, which one feels best, using the emotions like we were talking about to get the feedback. Oh, this permission slip's probably gonna work for me now,
right,
to change that focus. And I started realizing how fast a slice of cheese or like a dog or a run can shift my focus even faster than meditation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes meditation kind of brings me to this neutral point, which is cool, but it doesn't like then punch it into forward drive. So I guess it's just knowing what works best for me.
Yeah, and it changes, right?
Yes,
in the moment.
it definitely changes.
It's like listening to your inner guidance, to your intuition, and really asking. And sometimes you don't fucking know, and that's okay. If you're in like a shit spiral, you're not going to know what's best for you because you're in the mind that created the problem. So move, do something else, but don't sit in it unless you want to.
Yes.
You're always, at choice.
Yes. Yes.
Woo!
I'm feeling emotionally wonderful.
It's because you are wonderful, emotionally and otherwise.
Thanks, Care Bear. Does anyone call you Care Bear?
I call myself that whenever I messed up. Like when I did something really stupid, I would say, oh, it's okay, Care Bear. Like just like to be sweet instead of like, you're a dumbass or, that kind of stuff. So yeah, Care Bear is like my sweet, affectionate name for myself.
I love that when you're
I'm
self-soothing.
being gentle.
Yeah.
Gentle with myself.
Always got to soothe yourself.
I don't always.
Oh, reading between the lines.
Feeling good?
Feeling amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening and watching too.
Right.
Fucking.
Now. Peace out, people.
Peace out.